I think it is very, very true that we should understand that there are numerous factors to this 2022 floods in Nigeria. And then, for as much as the Cameroon dam release also have a part into the flood occurrence, I think the existing gap of vulnerability in Nigeria, let me look at poor urban planning, lack of good drainage system, and as well the fact that we failed to also construct our own dam for many years now, is also another factor that we need to also take at our own side. And when you look at the entire reason why this particular Lago Dam was constructed in 1977 by the Cameroon, you see that it was entirely to also save their own country, from possible effect of climate change, which is excess water from rainfall. And then thereby the dam also creating electricity and irrigation for their farmers. And I think there's an MOU agreement between Cameroon and Nigeria. But the whole important thing is the fact that we fail to play our role. It is true that many people will have said that, well, Cameroon is at fault.
When you say playing our role, how exactly do you mean? Are you talking about preventative measures or perhaps keeping our end of the bargain regarding that particular agreement with Cameroon?
Yes, both. Number one, keeping our bargain by ensuring that we construct our own dam. At the same time, also, most of our rivers, are supposed to have been dredged for many, many years. We have been seeing the flood issues almost every year. And when you look at it, we still have many people living close to the floodplain. There's a lot of poor urban planning in Nigeria over the course of the year. So you see that these are multiple factors that is contributing to these yearly floods. So we have more quota to play. And if you can probably look at the news for over time, they have said that, well, they received this warning from Cameroon. Now, my question is that if the Cameroon have warned that they will release the water, what have we been doing from the time we have been informed up to now? I think it was confirmed that, yes, they informed us that they will release the dam.
Absolutely.
And then what have we been doing? And that's what I mean by preparedness. Yeah, that's what I mean by preparedness when it comes to emergency response. So when you look at this now, for as much as, let's say, we have a good state coordination in terms of emergency response to the victim, the impact might not be as much more like this. We don't have any preparedness plan at all in Nigeria and in most of the states that have been affected today.
The minister also mentioned something. He did say that the release of the water in that dam in Cameroon only contributed about a percentage to the floods here in the country. What do you reckon? What do you think about the statement?
Yes, true. I confirm that to the minister.
Okay, so essentially
Yes.
it does mean that the Cameroonian, the action by the Cameroonian government right now is more or less an inconsequential one, because if it's contributing just 1%, then it means everything else essentially lies with the inability, if you like, to protect Nigerians, if you like, from these sort of occurrences. And that's, of course, on the Nigerian government, isn't it?
Yes, we cannot say 1% because that's so low, right? But of course, we cannot say 50%. So you see, we have more of 60, 70% of what we're supposed to do at our own hand. And even if you look at this particular country called Cameroon releasing their water, you see that they are also safeguarding the entire country from being submerged by this water. It's not just that they want to just do what they want to do. When the dam overflow, you have to release it. And that's why there's an agreement of MOU from the start. So,
do we attribute that to a lack of political will to make it happen? Because if you were warned about an impending danger, or there was a foreboding, if you will, of some danger or some hazard, and you didn't take precautionary measures or preventative measure, then that's totally on you, isn't it? At this point in time, shouldn't we just look toward the federal government for not doing what they should have done?
Yes, of course. We can look at it in that dimension. But I think, like I mentioned at the start of this talk, it's that aside the government, we also have a role to play as a citizen too. So you see, you realize that even despite the fact that we have much more contribution that's supposed to that's supposed to be planned by the federal government and state governments, the people also have a role to play when it comes to living close to the coast or to the river, right? Or probably building low standard of building structures. But I think that we are warned, and there is much more that's supposed to be done by the federal.
But isn't it, when you say that the residents, and I agree with you, but to some extent, because if I'm going to build on a particular piece of property or land, in the end, it belongs to the federal government, or it belongs to the state government, rather. And if the state government at any point in time decides to want to use that property, they can do whatever they want to do with it. And if they see, if the terms of agreement or whatever demands a compensation for the owner, there would be that. However, seeing as that is the case, the government, knowing full well that they own the properties or own the land, if you say that we are responsible, or we are partly responsible for that, like I said, I do agree with you. However, isn't it on them to know what property is in the wrong place, or planned badly, or planned wrongly, and then, of course, mandate the what's it called, the relevant authorities to take care of such properties in or rather that are lying on illegal structures? Isn't it still the responsibility of the government to make that happen?
Yes, absolutely. It is the entire responsibility of the government to ensure that they are good urban planning and landscape planning, and they are building out of standard enough. And I think there's still much improvement that needs to be done in terms of a strict policy to guide against this in the future. You have seen that so many parts of the countries where there used to be wetland are now occupied by building. Even we have more sand mining in places like Lagos. And you understand quite well that it is this same political officials, or let me say government staff in several ministries that keep approving. Some will approve, some, there are so much more. Some will probably going to have somebody within the ministry that will just approve a particular place. There's not supposed to be, where you can build house for the person. And we also have some adamant citizens too, who they have won, and they just decide not to say, well, we don't mind, we will just be there. So you can see there are some people that have even give them warning to leave those places, but they will say, well, we will not live here until there's a caterpillar that wants to probably just want to destroy our house. So you look at it now that we have a different dimension. We have a very, very bad act from the probably urban regional planners and surveyors who are approving these places. That's one. We also need to have more enforcement, right, to guide against this thing. Because when you look at it, you see that at the long run, several houses are destroyed, several livelihoods have been lost right now. We cannot even wait to withstand the aftermath impact of this 2022 flood.
So you just talked about some issues that could border on solutions, as you were, better enforcement and all of that, because, I mean, it's a really serious issue. Back in 2012, we lost about a little over 300 people. And then, in 2012, just as you mentioned earlier, a little over 600 people. Now, how better can we prepare ourselves, against these sort of issues going forward? Very quickly.
Yes, going forward, I think the first most important thing is to guide against the issue of release of dam. We should find a way to construct our dam. That's one. Going forward, like I mentioned earlier, there's extreme. It's very, very pertinent now that we have to do some form of river dredging. So that at least, even though the climate is changing and there's extreme rainfall, there will be a place it could be able to contain some of the river. There's also very need for some of the cities to have a good drainage. It's a high time now, and it's also very important that there must be a pertinent control on waste management. In advanced country, you realize that at every sum of meters when you move, you have where you can dump your waste. Even, so you see, you have no reason to put the waste inside a gutter, because when you walk a while at different bus stop, there's waste disposal there that you can drop it and government pick it up. We need an excellent, an effective waste management process in Nigeria, because because those are what is causing it. And the same thing is what I mentioned about, our land use policies need to really be checked into. Very, very crucial.
All right. Thank you very much for talking to us today on the program. We've been speaking with Mr. Taiwo Ogunwumi. He's a flood expert. Joined us on The Big Story today. Thank you very much for your thoughts. This is Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name is David Shiedu. Thank you also for joining us on today's program. Do stay very close. The roundtable continues very shortly. Good evening.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, Stay for informed conversations.
Connect with us now via our social media channels. Facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at Radio Now 953FM.